Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to GPA Live. I'm your host, Ron Aaron Eisenberg, and delighted to be here. GPA Live is a virtual education series made possible by the Global Pain Association, and they do a great job. People with chronic pain have discovered that with the Global Pain Association, they can find answers and hope and direction on where to get relief. Today's topic, the Social Security disability claims process. And it can be complicated, it can be difficult, it can be very frustrating. So we have brought on a specialist, attorney Celeste Kabasi. She's with the law offices of Kabasi, and we're delighted to have her here. Let me take a moment first to introduce the founder and president of the Global Pain Association. Please welcome Dr. Susan Blackwood. Dr. Blackwood, as always, it is great to see you.
Great to see you, Ron, and thanks to you and the Eisenberg Group for putting this on every single Saturday. And now we're reaching over 75,000, and I can't believe what a difference Global Pain Association has made in this community, reaching those with chronic pain and their caregivers. It's just been amazing.
Now, I know you'd like folks who come into the chat room, and we invite you into the chat room to share with us ways in which the Global Pain Association and GPA Live have helped you. And you can use that information either with attribution or anonymously to support grant writing for the association. So we invite you to jump into the chat room, let us know what's going on. And also, when you get in the chat room, please share this program so that others can enjoy it as well. And tell us a little bit, Susan, about the Global Pain Association's support group.
Well, since we started in 2018, we've not only had an in-person seminar, and these virtual seminars, an educational series, Global Pain Live since last May. But in January, we started a support group, the Global Pain Warriors, that meet the first and third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. They can get the link on our website. We go through connectability, and we've got a fabulous navigator, moderator, Dr. Marianne Pinkston, that meets with the group each and every Tuesday that they conduct the meeting. We're hoping that this fall we'll be able to have a hybrid session where people can do it virtually or in person at Warm Springs. And we're just so pleased with the kind of response that we've been getting. This is in honor of one of our dear board members that we lost through COVID last November. And Rebecca Christopherson was an inspiration to us, and that's why we wanted to start this support system.
Well, Rebecca was an amazing woman, and it was a tragedy, certainly, to lose her. For those who want to get involved in the Global Pain Association, how do they do that, Susan?
They can go to our website, globalpain.org, and they can do a /donate. We love those donations coming in to keep the series going. Or they can sign up to volunteer or just get more information.
Well, that's great. Now we're going to pick you up after our presentation on Social Security disability and access to the system. So we'll talk to you in just a little while, Susan. Thank you. Dr. Susan Blackwood. Delighted to have you with us and delighted for the work you're doing on behalf of the Global Pain Association. Our guest today is Celeste Kabasi, and she is someone who understands how the Social Security Administration works and how Social Security disability works. She's licensed and been practicing law since 1984. Celeste practices Social Security disability law, and she's a member of the National Organization of Social Security Claims Representatives. She's also the president of the San Antonio Social Security Attorneys and Claims Representatives Association. She earned her law degree from Texas Tech University School of Law, and she is licensed before the U.S. Supreme Court of Texas, as well as the United States District Courts for Western Texas, Eastern Texas, Northern Texas, and Southern Texas, and I guess she's got Texas covered. Celeste, it is great to see you. Thanks for coming on with us on GPA Live.
Thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
What is it that attracted you to working in an area of Social Security disability claims?
Well, I think primarily it was familial matters. My mother had twice, and then uterine cancer all before the age of 50 and became disabled because of it. My father suffered from multiple myeloma from chemical exposure during World War II. and died from it. And I wore a brace as a child, a Milwaukee brace for scoliosis. And I have chronic pain issues myself, so I'm pretty sympathetic to the population. It's a real passion for me.
Now, give us the 411 on Social Security disability and SSI, Social Security insurance. Most people know it, but don't really know it.
Well, there are really two different programs. One is SSI, which is really a federal welfare program and is a needs-based program. And that's for people who are either disabled or over 65. And it's the other one is Social Security disability, and that's the program where we pay into the system as workers over our working life. And the medical standards for both programs are the same, but the pot of money that pays you is different.
And talk a little bit about how you get involved in those programs. How do you get the help?
Well, you either go to Social Security, which is kind of difficult now because they're closed during the pandemic, or hire an attorney who does Social Security disability, or try to navigate the system yourself by going online. 22% of the initial claims are approved, so that's a pretty low percentage to begin with, and
that means 78% are disapproved.
Correct.
The vast majority of claims are turned down. Are they given an actual analysis, or is it just automatic? We turn you down.
No, actually, there are several types of denials you're going to get. You're going to get one that we don't think your condition is severe enough. We call it a severity denial. You're going to get one, we call it a durational denial. We don't think your condition is expected to last 12 months. Third type would be, oh, we think you can continue at your work. You may have some limitations, but it doesn't interfere with your ability to work. The next type is, well, we don't believe you can do your past work, but you can do other work in the national economy. That pretty much sums up the different rationales and the denials.
And I see that if you have an attorney representing you, odds are favorable that you'll get a favorable decision.
That's certainly true. 98% of the attorney represented claimants prevailed in their disability claims.
Now, excuse me, I was going to say, is that because for the average layman, they just aren't able to access the system effectively?
Well, I think the problem is it's not just filing an application and filling out the forms. You have the burden of proof as the disabled person to prove you're disabled. So you need to be sure your medical evidence is in there. In the electronic age, we submit those documents electronically. And we're constantly getting updates on people's medical records because while the claim is pending, they're seeing different doctors, different medical things are happening. And right now during the pandemic, the claims are taking so much longer that we're constantly updating because now, they may have started a diagnosis as disabling, but then they've gotten another condition,
If you've been denied your application, your claim, is that it, or can you appeal?
No, if you've been denied at the initial step, you have the ability to request a reconsideration, and that's if you have a medical denial. After reconsideration, if you're denied at that step, everybody's entitled to a hearing before an administrative law judge. We're actually entitled to in-person hearings, but during COVID, we're conducting those hearings either on the phone or in a Microsoft Teams platform. If the Social Security administrative law judge denies you, you have access to the appeals council in Falls Church, Virginia, which reverses or remands a very small percentage of the ALJ denials. And then if the AC denies you, you can file suit in federal. There are many appeals available.
Now, do you have to stop working in order to apply for benefits?
Well, technically you don't have to stop working, but I recommend that people do because the amount of work that you're allowed to perform, you probably couldn't live off of anyway. And just working, even on a part-time basis, gives the assumption by the agency that you're able to work more. So technically, yes, you can work part-time, earn under $1,300 a month. But what the agency doesn't tell you is if you're earning about 800, reach substantial gainful employment, but they may be used to against you as a trial work period, or in other ways they can prejudice your claim.
And if you've never worked, you're over 50, a widow or a widower, can you apply under your spouse's Social Security number?
Absolutely.
How does that work? That's good news for people.
Well, they apply just like they were applying under their own number, but they give the number of the spouse and the name of the spouse. There's some technicalities besides over 50, how long they were married, things like that. But generally, it's a straightforward process. Assuming your spouse paid in Social Security and had the sufficient quarters and you're married the sufficient amount of time, you're eligible for those benefits.
And is there access to benefits if you've been divorced X number of years?
Yes, a divorced person, as long as they were married to that person for 10 years, may be eligible for benefits under the previous spouse's earnings.
So I don't know that a lot of people realize that.
I think that's probably true.
So how do you go ahead and apply for those benefits?
Well, same thing. It's information you either need to tell Social Security Administration or tell your attorney.
So let them know you were married 10 years.
It's something we ask people. It's something we ask people. Were you married for more than 10 years? Do you have a previous marriage that lasted 10 years?
But if you don't have an attorney, you may not know.
Right. And Social Security's, that question is on the application, but some people don't understand why it's there, and they either answer it incorrectly or they get the notion that, oh, well, what does my ex-spouse have to do with it? And, I mean, the ex-spouse has no control as to whether or not you get a benefit based on their earnings.
So he or she can't say, no, I'm not going to let her get it.
That's correct.
Let me ask you about pain. You mentioned that you have chronic pain, as do many of the folks who listen to this broadcast. The goal of GPA Live is to help people cope with and manage chronic pain. Is pain a qualifying condition to recover and earn Social Security disability?
Well, pain alone is not a qualifying condition, but your diagnosis that causes the pain can be. And the effect of pain on your ability to sustain work, you have to be able to have the concentration, persistence, and pace to perform a job. And most people with severe chronic pain don't. They may be able to work intermittently or for short periods of time, but they can't work a 40-hour week or sustain employment. A lot of people work and continue working because they have no choice financially and don't realize that there's a benefit available to them.
And to qualify for these benefits, it takes a while. If you are struggling with, let's say, stage 3 or 4 cancer, you're terminal, can the process be sped up?
Yes, the process is expedited for terminal conditions, also for compassion and allowance conditions. Those cases, theoretically, at the initial medical review, should take no longer than 30 days.
And you don't need to be bedbound or in a wheelchair to qualify for benefits.
Oh, no, not at all.
So what you need to do, and that's why I gather an attorney is so important, Celeste, is to be able to fill out the medical forms completely accurately and make sure your condition is described.
Well, there's an art in filling out the forms, which I think we as advocates do a better job based on our experience than a layperson would do. And some people at Social Security will say, oh, you don't need an attorney. Actually, they're not supposed to tell you that on whether you need an attorney or not. And, you know, the system is just too big. Nobody at Social Security is going to assist you with the claim. And in terms of the medical review, that's not even done by Social Security. That's done by the Disability Determination Division, or now we call it DARS, Disability Assistive and Rehabilitative Services. It's a medical division that is funded by federal dollars, but it's an agency of the state of Texas. And those state agencies make the medical determinations all over the country. This is federal law, so sometimes I have clients in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Florida, Virginia. I mean, the vast majority of my clients, of course, are in San Antonio and the Texas area, but we do have clients out of the country that we represent successfully as well.
And if you're living elsewhere, because we're watched by people all over this country, how do you find a disability attorney like yourself?
Well, I think the best thing is to go to the National Association of Social Security Claimants Representatives webpage and look for someone who is either a member or a sustaining member of NOSCR, because then you're going to find an attorney who really has an interest in disability and who is going to seminars and getting the continuing education and keeping themselves really abreast. I mean, in the old days when we had yellow pages, people could look in the yellow pages too. But I mean, I think the most reliable thing is to go to NOSCR. There's also an organization called that rates the top 3 firms. I'm happy that I'm one of the top 3 rated firms in San Antonio, and in fact, the only solo practitioner in the 3 best rated. But a lot of times doctors and family members refer people to us. I think after you've been practicing a long time, most of your business is from referrals. It's some of it's from the internet, but most of it's from referrals.
Now, as you take a look at the numbers of people who will be applying, we are an aging society. Baby boomers are stuffing themselves into the 65 and over group. Many suffer from a variety of disability conditions. Is Social Security disability capable of handling that huge influx of applications?
I think it is. And remember, once you reach full retirement age, which for most people now is 67, disability really doesn't exist. You're getting your full retirement benefit.
And then a lot of people are wondering about COVID-19. For those who have had it, there's the so-called long haul response. Will that become, or is it already, a qualifying disability? Is it presumptive? If you got it, you get in.
It's not presumptive. It is being looked at carefully. In fact, at our NOSCR seminar in May, we had a whole track of our 3-day seminar that was just on COVID long haulers. The one case that I have that I can think of off the top of my head is a case with a cognitive issue. But the vast majority of the people, you have these long-term respiratory issues where they're winded, they're on oxygen, they just don't have the stamina, they have the fatigue. But it's hard to tell. I think it's going to have a big impact on the system.
And if you're one of those people, how soon should you apply for disability? Do you have to wait until you're totally not functional?
No, I think as a general rule, if you know you're out of work and you're at the 6 to 9 months and the condition has to last 12 months, I think that's the time to apply. The cases that are approved more quickly are the cases where you've been out of work a year or 2 years. I mean, that shows that the condition really is not going to improve, that it's either plateaued or in most cases is getting worse. An amazing statistic to me is that the average Social Security disability benefit client of ours, statistically, they die 5 years after we get them benefits. So a lot of them have a lot of comorbidities. They're pretty sick.
And does any of that, the amount of funds that they were due, go into their estate, or do the checks cut off when they die?
Pretty much, unless they have children that are still in high school, or they could have a disabled adult child. That is that is someone who developed a disability before age 22, and then later their parent either retires or becomes disabled. We call them DAC benefits. I get a lot of those cases. Mostly they're autism, Asperger, and mental illness cases where we can show an onset before age 22, and then the father or mother retires, and they're eligible for a benefit based on the parents' earnings. And that's really a great benefit because it's usually higher than the person would get under their own earnings. Some of those kids have no earnings, and that benefit can continue for the rest.
We have someone asking a question in the chat room. She says she knows some people get SSI, some get SSDI. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is SSI is a needs-based program. Asset limits are $2,000. You can only have the home you live in. You can't own extra property. You can't have savings or 401k. It is a federal welfare program. And the monthly benefit is just under $800. So it really is a poverty program. With SSI, you do get Medicaid. Disability is based on what you've paid into the system. The average disability payment, Social Security says, is $12.59 a month compared to the average retirement payment of $15.14 a month. And that's just based on what you've paid into the system. I don't know what your benefit is, nor does anyone when you come to me. Social Security sometimes I'll give you an estimated benefit on your earnings statement, which is generally pretty accurate. But
if you're getting SSI or Social Security disability and you've reached a retirement age, can you draw Social Security as well and add those two together?
No, it'll just continue. The benefit will just continue, but you don't get any additional benefit.
So it's one or the other.
Well, all you're really getting when you're getting disability is you're getting your retirement early. It's the same chunk of funds.
Well, that's interesting. So it's a way to look at it. If you wait until what would be your retirement age, your Social Security would be more
Absolutely.
than if you retire early. Is that true with Social Security disability as well?
Yes, it is true, but usually the disability benefit is higher than the early retirement benefit. So often we get people that are 62 to 66 and they don't know whether to apply for early retirement or disability. And I'd say if they're disabled, to try for the disability if they can, because it's a higher benefit.
Now, there's something for folks to understand, and we really appreciate you come on with us today on GPA Live. We're talking with attorney Celeste Kabasi. She is well-versed in Social Security disability and Social Security insurance. For those who are wondering about should I apply, should I not apply, is there a delay once I'm approved? Does it take time to get that check? And then how do you get paid as the attorney?
Well, we're paid from your past due benefits, and we are paid only if you win. So there's no out-of-pocket cost to hire an attorney. And in fact, there are non-attorneys that do this case. And of course, as an attorney, I have a preference for the attorneys doing it. I mean, why pay a non-attorney the same fee that your attorney would charge you?
And as
biggest delay is all the cases in medical review.
I'm sorry?
The biggest delay is the medical review. That's what takes the longest.
And one of the things you were telling me when we talked about this in rehearsal yesterday is that some of the doctors during the review are not specialists in the area in which you are filing for disability. You may have, right? Is that right?
Most are not specialists at all. There's no requirement that they be a specialist. And the sad thing is these medical doctors that contract with the state agency, we've done some FOIA requests, and on average, they spend about 15 minutes per file, and that is whether the file has 5,000 pages or 500 pages. And the doctor really doesn't make an independent decision. The claims representative at the state agency, well, the claims examiner at the state agency, to be an accurate term, they write up a rationale as to what is, and the doctor either signs off on it or doesn't sign off on it.
Doesn't sound fair.
Well, and the sad thing is too, sometimes those cases will be approved, but then they go to another office for quality review. A random number of cases go to quality review, and quality review will either say, yes, they were right, or it'll say no, and will deny the case.
Now tell me, before we let you go, about some of the more interesting cases that you were involved in that really stretched your ability to get a claim approved, and yet they were approved.
Well, I think the most challenging cases are the people that are under 50. There's certain rules Social Security has where you can get people benefits when they're 50, 55, and you're looking at their age, education, and work experience as well, and not just the medical condition. But the young people that are under 40, those are the most difficult cases. And sadly, I would say some of the most difficult are the not really wounded warriors, but the veterans with PTSD that are under 40 and have really severe mental PTSD. Those cases, to get those benefits for those young veterans is very rewarding, because they're really given the short end of the stick in the whole process. Now, wounded warriors are actually a category where they get expedited review. I mean, it's real rare that a wounded warrior would have to hire an attorney, although sometimes they have hired us because we can get them approved more quickly.
Somebody's asking, they had applied for disability. If they weren't happy with their representation, they felt that they were doing the work rather than the attorney. If she were to call you and you found the case one that you could take, can you get her old documents from her old attorney?
Perhaps. It depends on whether the attorney should have retained them for a minimum of 5 years. I can't speak to somebody who's represented by an attorney or a non-attorney rep as long as they're represented. And hopefully, if the medical records still exist, they should be able to be independently obtained by the new attorney, by me or someone else.
Anything we haven't asked you want to share before we say goodbye?
I think I have a bias towards the local attorneys. I think by and large, we have good disability practitioners in our San Antonio community. There are a lot of national firms that do these cases. You don't meet the attorney till the day before the hearing, or maybe even at all now because of COVID. You might have a video with them. And they may not even send a member of that firm to the hearing. They may send a contract attorney who's paid a flat rate to do that hearing. I see that happens with the big firms that do it nationally. So I really think if you're going to hire an attorney, hire somebody local.
Well, I think that's really good advice. And as an attorney as well, although I don't practice, I would agree with you. You're much better off with somebody if you're in San Antonio. And of course, we're heard all over the world. So wherever you are, look for an attorney in your community who's a member of the association, who does this work. And you probably end up with better representation. So Celeste, go ahead, Celeste. I'm sorry. Some
of those big national firms are good, but it's hard to know who's actually going to send, who's actually worked up your case. A lot of the big firms just work on volume, and so you don't get the attention your case deserves.
Now, there's a phone number on the screen. We've had your email address up. How would you prefer that people contact you?
I think email, or during COVID, they could even text my cell phone, which is 771-3977, 210-771-3977. You can call the office. My legal assistant is there. I have a nurse who works 2 days a week in RN who helps screen cases. Whatever's more convenient for them.
I want to thank you so much for coming on. You've been a wealth of information. And it's such a complex and confusing area for folks unless they've been involved in it. So, Celeste, thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And
Celeste Kabasi, we appreciate her coming on. And we're going to flip back now to Dr. Susan Blackwood, who has been rapidly taking notes, and she's back. Hey, Susan.
Ron, that was unbelievable. Celeste, I know that you're still listening, and we can't thank you enough for putting all this in English, which is probably not easy to do because it's such a complicated area. But this is just another example of how we're bringing resources, educating people with chronic pain and their caregivers, and we can't thank you enough.
Now, for folks who want to get involved in the Global Pain Association, you make it easy.
We do, and obviously it's all free. But we can only offer these services if people will help us and support us. They can go to globalpain.org/donate. and make a donation. Every little bit helps. And our board, all volunteers, would like to continue the series for the rest of summer and into the fall, and maybe even have another in-person meeting, which was so successful in 2019, and bring these experts into a setting where people can ask questions and do the kinds of things that we know are so important as we continue to provide this kind of education.
Now, Dr. Blackwood, you get the last word. Anything you want to add?
No, just thank you again for being on with us. Thank Celeste for her preparation for this. We've got some really good experts and other topics coming up, and I know you're going to tell them about next week's.
Indeed, and Dr. Blackwood, thank you very much. Next Saturday, July 17th at noon, right here on GPA Live. The topic is Caregiver SOS with Cindy Robles. WellMed Medical Management is the underwriter of next week's segment, and Caregiver SOS provides incredible help for caregivers across this community and elsewhere, and so we hope that you will join us. Thank you to the Board of Directors of the Global Pain Association for making this broadcast possible. Thank you as well to our executive producer and director, Gina Galaviz-Eisenberg, who happens to be my wife. That's talk about chronic pain. She deals with it every day. And thank you all for being with us. I want to thank you again, and we'll join you next week on GPA Live. Bye-bye, everybody.